Trianga's project, Battle Splash 2.0, being called Battle Splash from here on out, is an interesting title that I found on itch.io the other day. It exists on Steam as well and falls under the Early Access moniker, so I'm not going to make any judgments regarding the technical aspects of the game yet. It is quite clear that this is a work in progress, and I'm sure the developer is getting plenty of feedback from the more dedicated fans. Instead, I want to discuss some of the things that Battle Splash does differently, mainly looking at how it uses theming to add realism to the more abstract tropes of its genre. To understand what Battle Splash does differently, we must first understand what Battle Splash is. The current version of the game is a generic class-based third-person shooter. There are 4 classes that are differentiated by some typical stats, like speed and health, and a single unique ability. These classes fall under the Scout, Healer, Tank, and Engineer archetypes. There are also 4 weapons, Sniper Rifle, Bazooka, SMG, and Grenades, and these 2 are typical for the third and first-person shooter genres. And finally, the game uses a regenerating health mechanic where a player will gain health after having avoided damage for a set amount of time. This description could represent practically any game in the multiplayer shooter genre. It is the theme that sets Battle Splash apart, however. Instead of being a game about war, Battle Splash is about a group of women participating in a water balloon battle. Well, technically the women are beta testing a holodeck type of VR system that plays this water balloon game, but that isn't too important to this analysis. Because this is a water balloon battle, all of the weapons are water-based. The sniper rifle and SMG are squirt guns, and the bazooka and grenades are launched or hand-lobbed water balloons. Getting hit by these weapons doesn't reduce the player's health though. Instead, it causes you to get wet. This is displayed by your wetness meter, with each hit increasing your wetness percentage. And when you become 100% wet, you must sit out for a few seconds before respawning and returning to the fight. If you can avoid getting wet for a couple of seconds, your wetness meter will slowly drop back down to 0, and the speed that this meter drops is determined by how fast you are moving. For all intents and purposes, this is a health bar and the regenerating health mechanic. But it works so well here. For one, it makes sense thematically. While regenerating health in, say, Call of Duty is abstract and purely mechanical, since, humans don't typically heal back from bullet wounds in mere seconds, Battle Splash's use of it comes off as understandable, less gamey. If I were hit by a water balloon, then my clothes would get wet. Multiple balloons would soak my clothes, and as long as I could keep them from getting wetter, they would eventually air dry. This small change to the context of the mechanic completely removes any intangibility by grounding it in real-world interactions. The best part about this is that the gameplay was actually improved because of this contextual shift. Where most regenerating health shooters promote hiding and finding cover when your health is low, Battle Splash encourages the opposite. Yes, you could find a place to avoid damage and slowly regain your health, but it is the slowest way to do so. Since thematically your clothes are air drying, your health regenerates faster when moving and is proportional to your movement speed. Not only does this inspire more aggressive play that is in stark contrast to the games the mechanic was taken from, but it secretly adds another stat to each class, healing speed. While the Scout has the least amount of health, the high speed stat means she can run faster and heal faster. Now, avoiding damage isn't the only way to heal in Battle Splash. As mentioned earlier, there is a medic class who has a healing gun, in the form of a blow dryer. Unfortunately, it doesn't function entirely like a modern blow dryer, but the idea is a good start. The blow dryer shoots out orbs that home in on an ally and eventually hover around them. That ally is then dried over time. It's important to note that this isn't an instantaneous heal, it's a heal over time. The blow dryer can also revive a downed teammate, also fitting in with the drying concept. This works so much better than other games' idea of bringing back bullet-riddled corpses with defibrillators or shots of adrenaline. It is quite remarkable how so many gamey, abstract concepts feel more natural by simply shifting the context of the mechanics. The only thing I would change with the blow dryer is to ditch the orbs and instead use a linked proximity mechanic to heal instead. Maybe lift the Medigun mechanic from Team Fortress 2, but change the rate of drying by how close you are to your ally. But this recommendation comes completely from a lore angle, and I have no idea how good it would actually play, so Finally, I want to point out a major aspect of Battle Splash: the lack of violence. Not only was it one of the first things I noticed about the game, but it is prominently noted in the descriptions on the game's Steam page. It was so important to the developer that this be a non-violent team shooter that they mentioned it not once, but 3 times. And it should be important to us, the players, that these types of games exist as well. Reframing mechanics and disassociating them from their commonly bundled themes is essential to furthering our understanding of game mechanics and how they relate to each other. It also forces us to think conceptually about game design, which gives us more freedom to experiment with tried and true design. Just look at how Nintendo completely re-envisioned the team shooter in Splatoon, and Valve did the same thing to corridor shooters in Portal. Both games took the core mechanics of aiming and shooting and dared to wonder what kind of games could be made with these systems that didn't already exist. While Battle Splash didn't deviate anywhere near as far as these 2 examples, it isn't difficult to see how the core principle of non-violence pushed the gameplay in new directions. Just the run-to-heal mechanic is genius enough to add a high-risk, high-reward scenario for faster classes when they hit low health. And that is just looking at how we can use non-violence to encourage unique game design. I can't overstate how imperative it is that these games exist to give younger players an opportunity to experience these game mechanics in a safer environment. And yes, I put safer in quotation marks because it's a subjective thing. There obviously isn't any evidence to indicate that violent video games make kids more violent, and I'm also not naive enough to believe that kids will be playing Battle Splash over Call of Duty. But I like that the option is there, even if it is currently only for fringe cases. It isn't wrong to hope that video games can have a future where violence isn't the status quo. I'd like to think that video games will eventually have a future where young players can graduate to more violent games if they wish, but could still experience a wide breadth of game mechanics regardless. Like I said earlier, Battle Splash is still in quite an early state, but it is already off to a great start, mostly because the developer chose to approach the genre with a different focus. The adherence to nonviolence required an analysis of the core mechanics of the genre, and this led to an understanding of how to recontextualize them. Where most of the industry is so focused on simply using what has worked before, it's refreshing to see someone turn a genre on its head. This is something that I would love to see happen more often. Just imagine how many experiences and game ideas, like Battle Splash, we are missing out on because thinking outside the box appears to be actively discouraged these days.